Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another episode of RocketMSP podcast. I'm Steve Taylor, your host, and this is the show where we ask vendors the tough questions. Today, I'm joined by Brett Arnott from RF Code, and today we are going to get a sneak peek at Sentry, a really cool new piece of hardware that RF Code has created and soft launched earlier this year or late last year, I believe. And it's cool. So I want to just kind of dive right in. Brett, if you could do me a favor, just give everyone some background into RF Code so we know more about your company for those that aren't familiar.
Yeah, certainly. And Steve, great to meet you, and hello, everybody. Look, I'm a VP of Product Engineering and Strategy for RF Code. RF Code has been around for almost 20 years and is a pioneer in active RFID technology for data centers. Boil that down, we produce hardware-enabled software that are wireless sensors for tracking in real-time asset locations in a data center, and then there's the environment in that data center, either for energy efficiency, cooling optimization, or just general data center sustainability for all types of data centers. Sentry is our newest product. As you mentioned, we launched that last year, and it's an all-in-one device for solving the problems of how companies, MSPs being one example, really monitor the growing number of remote IT locations, whether they be MDFs, server closets, network closets, IT rooms, which are going more and more. It's those rooms that are dispersed, spread out, and often don't have any visibility into them at most times.
Yeah, and I gotta say, from the little bit that I learned about Sentry, when we had kind of our pre-call with David, I believe David's your CEO, right?
David is our heads up marketing for us. Dale is our CEO.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry, I get everyone all mixed up. I mean, next thing you know, I'll think you're the CEO. So
take it.
Yeah, I'm sure you wouldn't mind. All right, so from what I saw of this thing, which I'll be honest is very little, it sounds really cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to kind of talk about how this thing works, because I saw it has a bunch of sensors. It's able to do temperature, humidity. It does thermal.
Yep.
I feel like this thing's gonna be able to see like Predator into the server room or the IT room for people. So let's talk about, how does this thing work?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, maybe a little bit of context too is going to be helpful, and especially in MSPs and how MSPs are using it. I mean, ultimately, for MSPs, there's some challenges they're facing, some headwinds that they're facing. Growth for IT outsourcing is expected to only grow at about 0.8% over the next 5 years, according to IDC. So it makes a very competitive marketplace for MSPs. And so they need to find ways to improve the quality of their services for current customers so they can keep them, but also offer differentiated services so they can win new business in that crowded marketplace. And then also on top of that, just how can they find ways to reduce costs or scale well without growing that those costs. And Sentry can help them do that. And as you mentioned, it's a single all-in-one device that can see what's happening, or enable MSPs to see what's happening in any of their chosen IT rooms 24/7 without having to have people there. And it does that because we combine in one enabled device the real-time video with motion detection, because you can't be watching that video all the time. So you need to know if something's happening in that room. And if nothing is expected to be happening in that room, then that motion detection alert tells you to pay attention. It includes temperature monitoring. Now, that temperature monitoring, as you mentioned, has thermal imaging, but we do it in two ways, because one way is not enough. It's the ambient temperature in the room. So what's that room like in general? And then it's the camera pointed view of the thermal image of what's happening at the specific points in that room. There's about 700 plus points in a room that we look at for thermal imaging as well. And each one of those thermal imaging points can alert on changes in temperature. So if the cooling stops working, you can see in that area that the heat is going up in that area where you expect it should be cooler. Or if there's dangerous heat activity growing and at the IT equipment, you can see that at specific points as well. And then finally, there's the third piece, which is, I like to call it the silent killer of IT equipment, especially if you're in somewhere that's humid, like Florida or Texas. It's humidity as well. And IT equipment likes to operate within a certain humidity level. If those humidity levels get too high, it can have an impact on the performance and operation of the IT equipment as well. So humidity is clearly too.
Even if humidity gets too low, because too high, obviously, moisture could be an issue, but too low, now we're worried about static discharge. Still not good enough reason for me to use the word discharge.
Well, in this case, it's absolutely okay.
Okay, fair. All right, so this thing seems like a fun toy. Okay, like as an IT guy, I'm a gadgets guy, so I'm all about how can I put these at client facilities and have something cool to play with. I can sit here and I can think about all the different ways that it could be used, right? So obviously, if we're detecting too much or too little moisture in the air, if we notice, for example, with the thermal sensors, how many little zones did you say it has? Isn't it like 700?
Over 700. There's over 700 of them. So it's very discreet in terms of the granular information that you can get.
So with that, the cool thing is now we can say, all right, we're running a server rack with 40 servers in this rack, and we're able to say, server 17. It looks like maybe that one of the fans died in the front or whatever, because suddenly this little zone has too much heat going on.
That's right.
And,
the heat
that's really
signature
powerful.
Is changing. That's right. Yeah.
That's really powerful.
And so, Steve, I mean, let me give you a customer example. And we've got many custom MSPs using this already, but there's one out of developer that I love. It's the president's name is Troy McCauley. He's the president of the Bosco, or the Boss Company, which is a great name for an MSP, by the way. And he's actively using Sentry. And for the reasons I mentioned, how do you differentiate? How do you improve customer service? And also, how do you do that effectively at cost effectively at scale? So Troy is using Sentry for those reasons. And for him, by bundling Sentry into his services, he can see what's happening in his customer locations at any time, and also add that to his operations center so that becomes another view in operations center, and you can see what's happening at any customer site and be alerted because timing matters. And so to prevent something from taking down a customer site, you need to have that early notification before something actually goes wrong. So that timing, that early warning is absolutely critical. So with Sentry, by having by the Bosco having Sentry in their customer sites, they can receive early warning. They can look at the live video feed, go back and look at the history of all the different events, the heat events, the motion events, the humidity events, and determine what's happening in that room. And then without needing to send someone on site, or without needing to ask someone on site with a mobile phone to do FaceTime, which just doesn't work, they can actually ask someone on site to go into that room and get them and guide them remotely to take a look at that room. So not only does that mean responsive service and resolution or prevention of an incident, it also means they save money by not rolling a truck every time there's some kind of issue. And it also means they can prevent more issues than actually occur by having that early warning too.
And not only that, but there are many MSPs who still will send somebody on site just for the I looked at the server and everything looked okay. Kind of, you know what I mean? Like, so if we've got these devices in all of our server rooms, now we don't need to send somebody out there just to look at the server. We should still send people out there and do the touch with the end users. but now it's more customer service instead of cover your ass.
That's
Which
right.
I think that's a really important differentiator, because with a product like this in a server room, now you don't have to. Now you can avoid clients asking, "Why didn't you know this was an issue?"
Hey, look,
You know
and you
why?
actually hit on the spot there. I like to steal that quote from another customer of ours, Jim Burke, who's the COO of Links Technology out of Illinois. He says, his view of Sentry is it stops us being asked the question, why didn't you know about it? And
Mhm.
so ultimately, you get to know about it before something happens, before the customer knows about it, and hopefully prevent it. And one of those key things you talked about is going to be heat. There's many stories MSPs don't want to share about the fact that maybe a cooling unit went down or something happened and the heat increased in a room and it brought down the server equipment. We should know about that in advance. We should know before that happens. And actually, if we do get a chance to, if you want me to demo the product, but our head office is in Texas, and we had a similar issue as well where our air conditioning went down. And you'll see in the demo live that we actually have a fan in there right now while we're waiting for the air conditioning to be fixed. So it enables us to respond quickly, and we use it for ourselves as well. So look, whatever term, drink your own champagne, eat your own dog food, we use it.
Yeah.
Sentry is part of our business, our IT operations as well.
And we are going to demo that here in just a few minutes. I've got a few more questions and comments.
Mm-hmm.
So is Sentry able to align with any cybersecurity strategies, or maybe even better, does it align with any frameworks or controls like NIST or CIS that you know of?
Yeah, we haven't gone down that route yet, and I'll be honest. Like, yes, Sentry could be used to boost your security position, because just having the fact that you can monitor what's happening in a room and you know when things are changing in there.
Mm-hmm.
Because let's face it, these unmonitored or unmanaged or unattended IT locations could potentially be a vulnerability. We don't position or sell it or market it that way yet from a security perspective, and no, we haven't taken that route. Right now, our MSP customers are using it, as we've discussed here, for improved service for their customers and enabling them to know in advance and get that early warning.
Sorry, typing up a note here.
No problem.
All right, so the next question I have, and I don't want to take the win from your sales or anything, but what's the MSRP on this thing?
Okay, look, yeah, easy. And we sell these online, so it's easy for someone to go and buy these. The unit is $800, so the device itself is $800, and then there's a very reasonable SaaS subscription of $25 per month, so $300 per year for the access to the centralized console to monitor all those devices from one location.
And is the $25 a month, does that cover all my devices or each device?
It's per device.
Okay.
Yep.
So I gotta ask the questions. Have you guys considered an MSP plan where maybe we pay $100 a month and it gives us a bunch of devices or unlimited devices?
Yeah,
because that adds up.
Yes, the pricing I gave you is retail pricing. We have MSP plans. I'd be happy to talk to any MSP about it. And those plans are generous, so that either MSP could bundle that into their services, sell it and make a margin on those services, or just generally have a lower cost option for their overall economic benefits. So yes, we have MSP specific pricing in plan.
Wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So what sort of ROI can an MSP expect from investing in Sentry? And I guess the better way to ask that would be, what KPIs or metrics do you see MSPs focusing on when it comes to ROI thanks to Sentry?
Yeah, first and foremost, one of the ones we discussed here is, what's the cost of having to send someone out unnecessarily? So the cost of rolling a truck, whether that's their own cost or they use a third party to do it, to send a technician, and especially for those sites that may be further away. If you have to send someone on a 2-hour drive, that is a big cost and a big part of the ROI for using Sentry. On top of that is if there's any SLA penalties or any SLAs that aren't met because they were unable to prevent an outage, or an outage lasted for longer than whatever was in the contract, Sentry can also help with that as well. So they're two big parts of the ROI. Obviously, the hard dollar savings are not sending someone, not rolling a truck every time. And then if there's actually anything built into contractual SLAs, that's another big part of the return on investment as well. And then look, if for companies that are scaling, for MSPs that may be going from a smaller regional or maybe growing out as well, the costs they can avoid from headcount performance in terms of adding headcount for that growth can be significant for them as well. So there's a number of big factors for the ROI that can be considered for MSPs. It just depends on what their priorities are for using Sentry too.
Very cool. All right. And then let's see.
Oh, just add one more to that as well. Sorry, Steve. Yeah. I was going to say that the other thing too, I mean, if MSPs are looking to build a new service around this where that becomes an add-on to what they're already doing, it can be an additional revenue stream for them as well.
That's pretty cool. Now, have you seen any MSPs? I don't know the right way to ask this. Have you seen any MSPs use Sentry in any unique ways, like maybe outside the box thinking, where maybe they're pairing it up with other devices, and I don't know. Like I'm thinking, like when you think of some other stuff, you think like Zapier or if this then that, like smart home type functionality, where if the door sensor trips, then this happens, and then Sentry does this. Like, I don't know if you have an active API that we can use, or if you link up with a Zapier type product, and if MSPs have done anything unique with this.
Yeah, look, the possibility, I'll put it to you this way, Steve, the possibilities are endless. We are, because we do, we do make it so there is information that can be accessed, and there are obviously events and notifications that can be used to trigger other things. What I'll say to you right now, I would categorize our current MSP customers as using it for the use cases that we have here, with the eye to looking forward to how they can use it for further automation and other things in the future. I will add to it though, from a roadmap perspective, we are not staying with just how the product is today, with just temperature, video, and humidity. We're extending the device and the solution to add other sensors as well, so external sensors. And the first one we're coming to market with is actually going to be a fluid leak detector, so that if something spills in a room, or if the air conditioning unit is producing extra humidity or fluid, which it shouldn't be, that can be detected early and prevent failure from equipment. And I'll give you an example. David and I were at an MSP summit earlier in the year, and I spoke to a gentleman who runs a fiber business in Colorado, and he mentioned that I won't say the name, but he mentioned during the crazy weather at the start of the year that one of those fiber pits flooded and took down all the equipment that was in there. But they didn't know about it until it was too late, right? They didn't know moisture was getting in there. They didn't know water was getting in there. It's probably the number one request that we get is, can you help us detect if there's any fluid leakage in that room or in any of our rooms? And so that's coming, and then we'll continue to extend and add other sensors to the product as well, external sensors, to continue to provide that additional value for MSPs for their particular clients that they're supporting and their particular needs too.
And I know you've got a microphone built in that's currently disabled. I would love to see that utilized and somehow able to detect, for example, when a battery backup or a server is beeping because there's some kind of failure that somebody needs to know about. How great would it be for a customer to call and say, hey, our server room's beeping, and the MSP to say, yeah, we know, we just detected that it's beeping. We've already scheduled somebody to come out and replace batteries or whatever, right?
Yes,
Now,
yeah, absolutely. You touched on a great point. There is so much possibility with a combination of sound as well. Because what if you could also detect the sound of a fan stopping,
mhm,
right? Whether that's the air
yeah,
conditioning unit or whether that's the fans on the servers themselves, there are opportunities for that type of detection as well.
yeah, that's a great point. You could say, for example, we know that this room's ambient noise
Hmm.
level is always 47 decibels because this fan is just monstrous and it's right above the room. And if the noise dips below 47 decibels, we know that something's not right. And
Yep.
then maybe you'll set it up, I assume, that if you notice the noise dips below 47 and ambient temperature rises more than 1 degree, then do something. And I
You
don't
hit
know
on
what that
another
something is,
important.
but
Yeah, you hit on another important point as well. Correlation of events is important. Just one thing happening may not mean much, but either it's a combination of those of key events happening that can tell you something important, or if you're doing the investigation post fact, going back and looking at those combination of events, did someone walk in the room? Did they put a box in front of the server or the rack? What happened in that room leading up to those that event is also useful in its own right too. So that evidence or that information that can be used for investigation
I
is very
agree
helpful.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Now on the bottom, you'll see a button that says present.
Oh yes, I do see that.
If you could click on that and then hit share screen, then you can choose either the whole monitor or just the window that you want to share. And while you're getting the share going, I do want to say that Sentry, just like most products for MSPs, it's not going to be the type of thing where you install it and it's going to say, "Oh, we noticed that the fan must have died in your air conditioner
Mm-hmm.
because."
Yes.
It's not doing artificial intelligence. At least it's not today. It does require you as the MSP to log in and review the sensor data and the footage and correlate on your own the information and come up to conclusions, right?
Yes, Steve, and I've just come across a problem. Unfortunately, I've never used this before, and it's asking me to restart Google Chrome to allow the sharing. Okay, that is
Are
not
you on a
ideal.
Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna have to happen. So go ahead
Okay,
and restart and come right back, and everything
I
will be
will.
okay.
Okay, sorry about this quick introduction, but to answer your question, yes. Look, the solution lets you know what's happening. It's then up to the person to investigate and understand why that's happening and what they can do about it. That's correct. Okay,
Yes.
give me 1 second. I apologize to everyone. Let me quit and reopen so we can share screens.
No problem.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. And while we wait on Brett to come back, I'm going to do impressions. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to do anything like that. That would be ridiculous. I do want to say that it's been a while since I have seen like real innovation like this in the channel, and I'm actually kind of excited about this product. To me, it's like a toy, and I want to play with it. You know what I mean? Uh, so so yeah, I'm super pumped to see this thing in action.
That was quick.
Yeah.
Hopefully. All right. Let me try sharing screen again. Okay, I am going to share the entire screen. Let's do that. Okay, can you see my screen?
I do.
I'll get rid of the view of many of us. So hopefully we can see this here. Let me know. You should be seeing a Sentry screen that's
5 locations, hardware lab.
That's the one. Look, what I wanted to show here, I'm going to demo on a different tab, but I just wanted to show an example with more locations in it. The great thing about Sentry for our customers is in Sentry Vision, which is the cloud-enabled application that you're seeing here, you can see all of your Sentry devices, which we call locations, in one place. And at the top level, we can see a summary of what's happening in those locations and the events that have occurred. So let me switch over to this one. This is the one I want to use because as I foreshadowed earlier, This is the one where we had the air conditioning situation. I want to show you the heat. So this is our actual office in Austin. Real office. We have Sentry set up in there, and you can see a number of events summarized here, and each of those events demonstrates some type of different thing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It actually looks like the different sensors, like the red one with all the little squares. I just assume that's a thermal.
Correct. Yep. And this is motion down
that's
here.
Motion. Yeah.
Yep. That's right. So, and when you drill down, it takes you to that actual site or that device, gives you the information about it. But most importantly, why this is important to MSPs, because this solves the problem of being asked the question, or ever being asked the question, why didn't you know about it? And we do know about it. We can know about it. Each of these represents an event, which then has a related alert, which means that now you don't have to be watching Sentry all the time, because Sentry will inform you of important things to go and look at. But if you do come in and take a look, you can also see what's happening at any time as well. So these events here are thermal events, and they are showing temperature. And you can see here, our temperature is high, 92 degrees, really too high for where you want your IT equipment running. And we can see across the top here, current information as well about each of those. And then motion events too. Someone went into that room, and each one of those motion events will have a recording associated with it. So you can see that actual event of the person. Well, in our case here, it's this person walking past the front door. You can see over here. Hopefully the video is coming through. And so that there is a great way of understanding what's happening in the room at any time. It's not unlike what people are accustomed to with smart doorbells. Someone comes up to your door, you see a motion event related to that, and you can watch what happened during that time. But
now,
let's
can we set this up so that way, like on my Ring doorbell, I can say, I want you to look here, but I don't want you to look over here, because over here, this is the road, and I don't want notified on every freaking car that drives by. So could we set it up so that way it doesn't notify us every time someone enters or exits the building outside of the room?
That idea of zones hasn't been implemented yet. We do have sensitivity, though, to allow for adjusting for motion events based on the level of that event. Right. So how much of that particular screen does it take up, and areas like that. But
that's
so
perfect.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yep. I was going to say, so maybe if they're moving in the corner, they're not filling up as much of the camera sensor as if they were to be walking through the room. Yep,
that's right.
Perfect.
And so let's take a live view of this room. We've seen the events. We've seen what the events can be and how they can look at. We'll dig into that a little bit more. But let's take a live look at this room right now. And you'll see, again, here's our fan spinning in the bottom right-hand corner. This is because our air conditioning in this room is not doing too well. Here's our demo equipment, and we have Sentry set up in the room to be able to see the equipment quite well. If I click this magic little button down here, I can actually see real-time thermal. And notice how on the right-hand side over here, where this is an outward-facing door, you can see how the temperature is higher.
It's detecting the window is hotter because of the sun.
Correct. Yep, that's exactly right. And so this thermal imaging means that we will get notifications about this being higher over here. If we had the door closed, which we normally do, that wouldn't be the same, right? We've got the door open to get cooling into this room right now. But also, take a look at this area here, which is really the core thing we care about in the room, is we can see nicely at any time what the temperature is like at the IT equipment.
And it looks like this refreshes literally every second.
It's basically a real-time view. Yes, absolutely. Now
if we were to, for example, say, hey, something's beeping, I want to know what's on that display. This camera isn't good enough for us to be able to zoom in and read the battery backup screen, right?
No, we don't have that in this solution. What our MSP customers find is really helpful is that they can actually contact the site and send someone into that room and guide them via the camera to what they want them to look at or do or check.
And often Big Brother does have its its advantages.
Yeah, it's also like it's a remote hands. Think about it as remote hands, and that is much easier than. And look, our MSP customers say to us, we've tried to do it before with with FaceTime or something like that, and it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But when we can see the room and we can direct the person while they're on the phone to us, it's much easier and much better result. And so if we take the thermal and we go back and say, look, let's look at history, because the great thing about this as well is you can see what's happening with thermal over time. I'm just using alerts over time. I apologize. It's not just thermal. It's all the things that we're measuring. So here we had a lot of motion events. You see those. We can see who's going in and out at that time. We go back to our calendar. The red ones indicate an alert over the set policy, and the blue. So let's go to this one here. Let's take one where it's
I
not
noticed
as busy.
the one that was blue only had the motion. Where the red, I assume there's some type of temperature or alarm that you've set in a policy. Correct.
Yep. And then here, I wanted to show you this one. This here, before we had the full heat problem in the room, you can see we had some heat challenges at one area on this equipment only. And this is a good view for you to see historically to go back and see what temperature was happening. But you can see the rest of the room is within our range and our policy that we have. So we had this one pocket here, it was 93, and around it was 84. And down the bottom, you can also see here, it was the beginning of a heat problem. So it alluded us to something where we were starting to see some heat problems with one particular area over here. But if we've got this scrubber at the bottom, which enables us to see when it happened as well, which is great from a timing perspective. And it quickly resolved itself and went back to normal. And
that's really cool.
We can see that over time. So that's great for, as I mentioned, investigation, either at the time or post-fact, if you're looking at the event basically as it came up, or post-fact to go and see if what we did worked well. And I mentioned correlation. So if we go to, let's use humidity. We haven't really talked about that yet. Look, we can see humidity here over time, right? And if we go, let's go back in here, we can also see when there was thermal events as well. So as I mentioned, correlation. So we can see motion. So as humidity went up, we can see a motion event around here, which looks like someone came in the room to do something. And then we can see some temperature alerts at the same time as well. So this here, having the ability to correlate multiple events, gives the power of, look, did something happen around the time that one of our metrics spiked? One of the things we're monitoring spiked. Was there a motion event in the room? And if so, let's go back and take a look at that. Was there a heat event related to this as well? So that correlation of multiple metrics or multiple monitoring points really does help with how you respond, what investigation you need to do, and then any root cause analysis or post incident analysis is really helpful as well.
Now, what happens when we look at the administration side of things? I assume that's where we get to start managing the policies.
That is correct. Yes, and policies can be managed in two ways. Well, let me rephrase this. So it's not only the policies, but it's also looking at how you get notifications as well. But we manage policies in multiple ways. Actually, you know what? I just realized I'm not an administrator on here, so I can't. I can see them, but I can't change anything. Probably for a good reason. I don't think the sales team will be messing with their sales demo. So, but the policies can be set at a global level, which means that you can apply one global policy to everything, or they can be at a device level, which is basically a location level. And that location level is important because not every room is the same, especially if they're in different states as well. You've got one in Florida, you've got one in California. The humidity and temperature are going to be very different.
That's very true, yeah. And it could even be something as simple as I've maybe placed this Sentry in a way to where the rack the racks are all we see, and we don't see the entrance door and all that other stuff. We only see the racks.
Yes.
And how cool would that
That's
be?
right. So the layout of the room, the layout of the room can be important as well. Is it a room that I was recently at took my son to a water park with a motel. I won't say the brand name. And I noticed that you notice these things now when you have products. I noticed that the cleaning crew must use the one of the communication rooms for either a pass-through or for storage, because I saw them open the room. There was all the network and IT equipment there, and they were walking past it on a regular basis. So if that was a pathway to somewhere and you had a sentry in there, what you wouldn't necessarily want to do is track their path all the time. What you'd care about is someone walking up to the equipment, or someone putting something in front of the equipment. So it's important about a placement, as you say, for the policies as well.
That's very cool. And even though we can't go in and manipulate these policies, I mean, they're at least in a way we can see how the policies work. So if the temperature goes below 72.5 degrees Fahrenheit, then we get alerted, or if it goes over 80.6. This is great.
And same with thermal imaging as well. I mean, I think we've got this still a little bit higher at the moment because of the fact we have a known problem there. But again, look at thermal imaging. If you wanted to know what what to tolerate for your equipment, because the discrete temperature, the granularity of the temperature can be much lower. It enables you to focus on particular areas and say, look, ambient temperature of the room would need to heat up a lot for us to see a real problem. But if there is a specific temperature at a point for the thermal imager, we need to know about that quickly, so we can address it.
And same with humidity. Below 15% is we have to worry about static electricity. Above 85%, we got to worry about a flood. Sentry offline, that's great.
Yeah, look, there's something to note about this as well, is we have battery backup of the device too. So if there is a power outage, then we continue to operate for a period of time on battery backup. And once the power is restored, we will send that information too. Now, if the network connection is not lost, then we'll continue to send during that time. But is battery backup as well. And then motion alerts. So as we mentioned there's control over alerting for motions. And then tamper. You made a mention of security. We also want security of the device too. If someone tries to rip that thing off the wall or break into it in some way, we want to alert people of that too. That in its own right can be an indicator of something going on in that room. Now, if you expect it to, you expect that device to be taken down and opened, not a problem. But if you're not, you need to know about it.
Now, one thing that I have a question on, you mentioned you have a battery backup. Does it also have storage to where so if it loses power, if it loses power, we've probably also lost internet. So once we reconnect to the internet, is it going to forward any events?
That's what it does. Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Yeah, we have onboard storage, so we continue to record events, so video and events to the onboard storage, and then once the network connection is restored, those events are sent to the cloud.
This thing's cool, man.
And then you asked about obviously pricing as well, and I mentioned we sell online. Anyone can go to store.rfcode.com and take a look. It's all here. We publish the pricing both for the device and for the SaaS subscription for Sentry Vision, and people can just take a look at the images that are here, and even take a look at what we showed you here in terms of the events. And there's a mobile app, right? So
nice.
If people are out and about, go to the Google Store or go to the Apple App Store and download the mobile app, and they can look at what's happening anywhere on their mobile device.
Wonderful. All right. Anything else you want to go over? I think we've covered.
I think that's
right?
a great introduction to Sentry, and definitely there's as you can see there's there's a lot of power to the product, power in what it can do for MSPs, power in what it can do for their customers, and it's really easy to get started. I think the one thing that people should be aware of is that setting up the device is very, very easy. We use things like QR codes to connect to the internet and make it really simple to do and set up. We have power options where it can either be powered by plugging into a good old-fashioned power outlet in the wall, or as most of our customers like to do, it's power over Ethernet. So use the power over Ethernet to run the device, so less cabling and less anything else they need to do, and just use existing network that's there. And once that's done, once that initial setup is done, it starts working easily and automatically. 20 minutes at the most, less if you're a really savvy person and quick with QR codes, whatever else. So it's very easy to set up and get up and running.
That's fantastic. I put on the bottom of the screen here a little ticker. If you guys go to rfcode.com/try-sentry, you can register and you can get a free live view of a Sentry install and dashboards. So that way you can play around with it before even committing to purchase anything. So,
yeah, that's great. Yeah, it's really easy to use as well. Once you're in there, you'll see exactly what I showed here. And you go exploring to your heart's content of all the different alerts and locations that we have, and check it out. The other thing too, because Sentry operates 24/7, it's one of those things that just goes all day long, all night, even when you're asleep. We have infrared technology as well, so you can see in the room even if the lights are off.
Very cool. Well, Brett, thank you very much for hopping on here and doing this. We are going to work out some kind of promo code. We don't know what yet, but there's going to be a promo code that members of RocketMSP will be able to get the Sentry at a really cool deal. So stay tuned for that in the member section of Discord. And yeah. Thanks so much for hopping on here and doing this demo with me, Brett. This was great, man.
My pleasure, Steve. Great to meet you. And we look forward to sharing more with you as we continue to update Sentry.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for checking this out with us, guys, and we'll catch you at the next episode.